All right. We'll get going right about now. Can everybody find a seat? Grab some food if you haven't, grab a drink if you haven't, and find a seat where you can. There's plenty up the front if you're keen to be close to the speakers. All right. Everybody's settling down. Well, good evening and welcome to the MSB Showcase Night. All right. So it's really good to see so many people here. Some familiar faces, some not so familiar faces. Thank you for joining online if you are. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys being here and taking interest in the work that the team's been doing. So my name is Maxwell. I'm the current... Hello? I'm the current events and outreach lead for Monash, Monash Sustainable Building. And I'll be your MC for tonight. So I want to start by obviously thanking Monash Sustainable Building for giving me the chance to do this tonight. It's a pretty great opportunity. I'm relatively new to the team. I only joined middle of last year. Still a lot to learn and still a lot to take from all the amazing people that we work with and who are a part of the team. Yeah, so to begin, Monash Sustainable Building acknowledges and pays respect to the people of the Kulin Nations as the original and ongoing owners and custodians of the land. We also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which any of the people online work today, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this showcase night. We pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. All right, so let's do some housekeeping first. We want to first ensure everybody's safe, so make yourselves aware of the exit out the back, down the stairs. We've got a double elevator set up as well, so in the event of an emergency, you'll know where to go. There'll be people guiding you. If you're online, please feel free to text in the chat. There will be someone monitoring and answering. And yeah, lastly, put your phones on silent. If you can, silent or vibrate. We want to make sure everybody has an enjoyable evening and there's no major interruptions from a random FaceTime or something like that. We'll be taking a lot of photos throughout the night. So if you're not okay with that, of course, let us know, but there will be a couple of our photographers floating around the room. Awesome. So what's tonight going to look like? To start off, we have our prototyping team presenting their work and the things that they're going to be looking forward to in the future. We also have this followed up by... Oh, bugger. We've had a slide malfunction. Excuse me. Awesome. So where was I? I'm lost. Yep. So then we'll go on to talking about one of the bigger collaborations that we're working on with another company. Next, we'll have some guest industry speakers to discuss the state of design and construction beyond the scope of our team. And then finally, DCH, our design challenge team, will present their magnum opus, their design that they're taking to America this year for the finals of the US Solar Decathlon competition. And following this, we'll have a panel of 6 experts. This is going to be a time for you guys to participate. We're going to be doing a lot of talking at you, but we want the panel to be formed by the questions that you guys want to know. So we'll put a QR code up on the screen when the time comes. So, yeah, I hope we all have a really great night. We'll have some time to network afterwards as well. Ask any of the speakers questions, make new LinkedIn connections, anything that it ends up being. So Who are we? Hopefully some of you guys know, considering you're here for tonight. But yeah, what does the team stand for, and what is the work that we do? I'll pass it off to our team lead, Harish, to give you guys the rundown.
Thanks, Max. So who are we? So we're a student-led team that's based in Monash University in the Clayton campus. And we're a multidisciplinary team that's consisting of engineers from multiple backgrounds, including undergrads, postgraduate students, and also students that are in their masters, including with the guidance of faculty advisors as well. And pretty much our team, we're passionate about creating innovative solutions and also looking at going into developing sustainable building designs that are net zero as well. So just based on our team values, we're really passionate about creating solutions for within the building space, and we aim to create an impact and drive to change into a better future going forward as well. And in saying that, I would like to quickly reflect on our past, especially between 2023 and leading up to this year. It's been an adventurous journey for us with the team, with growing from 30 members before to where we're at now. And it's great. It's really great to see that. And in saying that, we're really excited to see what the future holds for us. And yeah, we're excited for the coming year as well. Yep.
Thank you, Harish. Awesome speech as always. So without further ado, what has the team been working on recently? Well, I'm pleased to say we've been as busy as ever with a lot of exciting projects going across multiple divisions and committees. The first that we want to discuss today is our prototyping project. So please give it up for Mirabelle and Henry, who are going to give us the rundown on that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mirabelle, and I'm honored to be here tonight as the lead of the prototype division of Monash Sustainable Building. What is our goal in the prototype division? Our aim is to creatively unravel various prototype designs with the ulterior motive of developing innovative and sustainable housing solutions through small-scale size models, whilst educating the younger generation on sustainable design principles and igniting their passion for sustainability through delivering various outreach programs that culminate various aspects of sustainable housing designs. To achieve our aim, our esteemed members are skilled into using various machineries to ensure successful completion of our project. We also in the team develop prototype models significantly for projects designed by the Design Challenge Division to compete in the United States Solar Decathlon competition. And I'll be talking briefly about these models we've designed in the past shortly. In addition to this, the prototype division educates the younger generation on sustainable and innovative housing solutions that tackle various climatic conditions and natural disaster. Moving forward, I'll be talking briefly about our past projects. On the top right hand of the screen, we have the office building project, which Monash Sustainable Building was able to present at the finals at the 2022/2023 United States Solar Decathlon competition. The prototype for the office building project focused mainly on showing the exterior intricacies of the building through a small-scale size model with the sole purpose of depicting the sustainability detailing of the project. The next prototype model on the screen is the Humming Home project, which took the second place in the 2022/2023 Solar Decathlon competition. The Humming Home is a project designed to serve as a transition home for domestic violence survivors. It also took into consideration challenges of climatic disaster. In our prototype for this, we explicitly designed both the exterior and interior of the Humming Home model. The prototype division has also designed an outreach workshop which is aimed to tackle the issue of limited access to electricity, energy efficiency of the house in varying temperature, through the sustainable principle concept known as passive lighting in housing, whilst being cost effective. Through this workshop, students were assessed on their creativity and critical decision making in being able to collaboratively design a house model that maximizes natural lighting. So next, I'll be passing on to Henry, who will be discussing the future aspiration of the prototype division.
Thanks, Mirabel. Our current projects, one of our biggest one that we've been working on for many months now is one of our new outreach workshops. One of these is called the House on Trailer workshop. Essentially, it's a tiny house on trailer targeted towards year 10s to 12, so higher education, so more like higher year levels as compared to our daylight saving workshop, which is targeted towards primary school to high school, which is around year 9s. The main idea with this one is to encourage the kids to critically think and also to creatively build and model a house, which allows them to look at the sustainability aspect, but also at the economical level, because they'll be looking at stuff like their insulation, the fuel that they use to carry the house around, because it's on a trailer. It's essential to think about how heavy the trailer weighs. One of the next projects that we've been working on is one of our final year projects. As you can see, it's a bit dark at the end, but on the left side of the room, there's like a pallet with a tin box. That's one of our final year projects from our dear alumni Raj. It is a house for disassembly. Essentially what we want to do is we want to remake this and rebuild it in a way where we can have our team members continuously learn and also improve upon our designs, partially because we want to make it look better, and we also want to show it off to our fellow team members and also to showcase events like these. Our next project is the current design challenge model, which we have a sneak peek over here. It looks like a Pikachu. I'll let you guys guess what kind of house looks like. But essentially, we're currently having our new team members, the new recruits, to design and also 3D print and wood laser cut the model currently. We're working on it. And for our large-scale models, we are working with Building 4.0 to work on large-scale models similar to Raj's model. We are planning on working on wall sections and also a green roof, depending on how we go with it. But essentially, that's our current projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Mirabel and Henry. There's some of you guys might have known us previously as Monash Solar Decathlon team. Plenty has changed since we've rebranded, and one of the biggest things is our prototyping division. So it's clear from all the work up here that these guys are a big addition and a big part of our team. It's easy to get caught up in the theoretical design business of making a house and designing a house. So having these guys build stuff that can be in our hands, can be tested, is really invaluable. Yeah. So, another way that this can be seen is through one of our collaborative projects called Project Syzygy. I only learned how to pronounce that because it's written on my phone. So don't ask me how to pronounce it again. There it is on the screen. It's a mess. So I'll pass on to Harish and Rahila, who will give you guys the info on this one.
Right. So Project Syzygy Creek, it pretty much originated from Harry pitching this idea to us to reimagine the space that's in the Monash precinct that's often, you can say it's neglected and not present to the community. So the aim of, or you can say the whole concept of the project is to visualize and to reimagine the space that's here, that symbolizes the connection and the movement that's within the precinct itself. So in saying that, I would like to give a bit of context on the project itself or the site that we're looking at. So you can see there's a lot of the area itself is filled with vast natural landscapes, and also the man-made features that are within these areas well integrated with the landscape itself. So I would also like to open it up to you guys to think about the possibilities of this area and what it could actually be made in the future. So in saying that, I'll pass it on to Rahila to talk about the themes that we explored.
So within the context, it sits on a massive creek that runs down through the precinct. To really understand the potential of the creek and how we can design for better sustained use, we have identified three main themes of community, innovation, and the connectivity of the greater network that surrounds the space. Community extends beyond physical boundaries, fostering connections through infrastructure and initiatives like tours, volunteer programs, and cafes. Activities such as biking and maintaining biodiversity play a key role in nurturing a vibrant community, along with addressing challenges like invasive species. Innovation is another one of our themes that we really want to emphasize. Innovation in creating an eclectic atmosphere, fostering feelings of safety, connection, and positivity within a space. This encourages people to maintain the spaces and foster deeper connections to it. And leading on to that is our theme of network. Network maintenance involves collaborations with professionals, clean water initiatives, and essential infrastructures like crossings at the moment, as this is a barrier between the businesses in that area. So planning for flood detection systems and using stakeholder data are vital. Partnership with local businesses, councils, and management bodies support our shared aspirations for this space. Now, overall, our aim is to showcase the potential of the space, because we know that at the moment it is really derelict, as Harry showed us, and it is essentially quite a space that can be revitalized and used in many more ways. And with that, the goal of the project is for it to have a lasting impact and a powerful message of connectivity through an otherwise derelict part of the precinct. So let's aim high. Our project dreams of scalability, whether in space usage or community connectivity. We're committed to making a lasting impact by pushing boundaries and inspiring others to join our journey towards our brighter precinct with the creek. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm trying to shuffle the podium a little bit because we're getting some feedback. Any better? There we go. A little bit better? Cool. So, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for that info. It's really cool to see the team taking on some bigger projects, and I think this is only the start of what we plan on doing. So, watch this space, I suppose. So, we'd like to give the floor now to one of our key collaborators during our design challenge cycle this year. Inhabit has provided some invaluable insights to our ideas and the way we present them from the perspective of industry. So tonight we have Jason Gaekwad with us to give us a bit more info. So Jason has experience in leading teams and delivering projects across a range of specialist disciplines. He's focused specifically on advanced analysis, high performance design, and as-built construction. Jason is the current technical director for building physics and sustainability. So basically the exact thing that our team is about. And yeah, he's here to discuss some of the efforts that Inhabit are making in this very field. So could we get Jason to come to the front? Thank you very much.
Thanks for the introduction. Cheers. So I've been given a handful of minutes to talk about sustainability in the built environment. So I was thinking, what do I talk about here? I only have a few minutes. This is kind of what we stand for. So I'm going to try and prompt some questions through this presentation that we can discuss later on. Oh. So I'm going to take you through some maybe slightly different perspectives on sustainable design, and then a message of hope through a case study, because we always need hope in sustainability. I don't know if everyone's figured that out yet. A lot of sustainability is convincing people to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. It's changing culture. And then that's it. So it's only a handful of minutes. So I wanted to take you through sustainable design spheres, at least my perspective of it in industry. So there are these traditional sustainable design spheres. There's energy, water, materials, and waste. People have been looking at that for a long time. Carbon, I've put in a traditional sphere because even though in Australia it's new, I did LCA when I was in uni. LCA has been around for life cycle analysis, that is, looking at embodied carbon and things like that. It's been around for 30, 40 years. So as a social, I don't know, artifact, it's new, but really it's been around a long time. So I'm saying this is what you guys, as students interested in sustainability, this is what you guys should be doing bread and butter, right? We're not questioning any of that. That's what you should already kind of be excited about. This is what I would classify as the future of sustainability. Again, you know, potentially not really controversial, but an easily changed perspective. Yeah, please come and chat to me afterwards if you have any thoughts about this as well. So we're looking at how people are inside the building, or how well people are when they're interacting with their building, so their activities. We're looking at the social impacts of a project. We're looking at procurement. So if we're making something out of a kit of parts, like where did that kit of parts come from? Like where did this timber come from? Where did the steel come from? Is the place that it came from the best place it could have come from? Or are we damaging other things? And also asset management. So the most sustainable, you guys probably heard this, the most sustainable building is the one that already exists, right? So how do we manage, like how do we look at a whole life cycle rather than just building new stuff? Building new stuff is really exciting. Asset management is traditionally not so exciting, but it's really important. And you'll see that this has kind of a human bent to it. So the previous slide is like very environmental. This is very human. So I think we're starting to realize that the impacts on the environment are just impacting us right back. So I kind of, yeah, so come chat to me, see what you, let me know what you think. So this is, there have been these traditional 3 pillars of sustainability around for a long time: social, environmental, economic. I've rebranded them a little bit. So, and I've also added another one, which is brand identity and promotion. So increasingly, sustainability is becoming about telling people you're sustainable. Every project has a different mix of these 4 things. Every organization has a different mix of these 4 things. Every person has a different mix of these 4 things in what they consider important. It's important to promote what we're doing because we don't have to do what we're doing. We need to do what we're doing, right? That's the difference. People don't really have to perform better. We have to convince other people to. So yeah, come tell me what you think about that as well. A message of hope. So I took these photos. They're not very good. I was on a site visit, so I'm not an architectural photographer, but hopefully it's enough to get it across. So this is Clifton Hill Primary School in Clifton Hill in Melbourne. It's a pretty good building. I'll explain why. It looks kind of cool. It looks like a you know, reasonably normal building. The facade's nice and brick. There's you know, quite a lot of shading on the windows, which is really nice. But yeah, it looks reasonably normal. But what it is, it meets the Passive House standard, if anyone knows about that. So that's a really high performance, low energy, high thermal comfort, high quality building standard, which is like third-party certified. So you're building it the way you've designed it. For those of you who don't know, often the way we design things is not the way they're built. It's mass timber, so it's timber structure. It's not concrete and steel. As I mentioned before, it's like well shaded. It's much more well shaded than most, but you can still see through the shades, right? So it's still, this photo is to show you that you can actually still see out. and it's well insulated as well. So what that means is that it uses 80% less energy, so 80% less operational carbon than a code building. The heating system is 5 times smaller than it needs to be. Oh, sorry, than it would be for a code building, because the peak load is that much less. The cooling system is about half size, maybe a little bit more. And it has a commercial business case. So the simple payback, I didn't want to share my more complex stuff, but the simple payback in just energy saving is around 10 years, which is pretty good. So I just wanted to say that I am being a bit tongue-in-cheek with this, but you can actually do this in real life. Like, you can actually satisfy all those objectives. It isn't that common. It's becoming increasingly common. But I just wanted to share that as a message of hope, let's say. I think that's it for my presentation. I do have one thing to note. I'm actually doing PhD in human connection to nature and biophilic design, how to design nature into buildings. If anyone would like to participate in my research, just let me know. I am looking for participants, so shameless plug there. But thank you very much. Cheers. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. That's really awesome. The stuff that it's really good to see big companies like Inhabit taking steps like this. And it's also cool to see some of the stuff that our design team thought about when designing our current DCH submission in there, like Passive House. That's a big one for us. Yeah, and that case study of the school, it's really nice to see that kind of stuff, especially in like big community buildings that are widely used by a lot of people. It's, yeah, awesome. So we're going to take things a little bit closer to home now. We have another industry speaker here to discuss the sustainability efforts within our very own Monash. I heard of me over there. Good. Kendra Wasiluk, I hope I pronounced that right, is the program director for net zero and sustainability at Monash University. Her focuses lie in renewable energy, low carbon finance, decarbonisation pathways, intellectual capital, and, as you'd expect from us, sustainable building design. In her role, she heads up the university's net zero and circular economy strategies, facilitating collaboration between researchers, educators, and campus operations. Here to tell us more, it's Kendra.
Got notes. Hi, how is everybody? Good. Thank you to the MSB team for inviting me to come and talk this evening. Aren't they amazing? I've been at Monash University since late 2016 and involved with when it was Monash Solar Decathlon team, and just to see how it's grown and the accomplishments and the awesome stuff you're doing is fantastic. So as was said, I'm here to talk about Monash and campus sustainability. I also have 5 minutes and 12 slides, so hold on. So in 2017, Monash committed to be net zero emissions by 2030. What we meant by that is zero carbon emissions, scope 1 and 2 emissions, so our electricity and gas, only our Australian campuses, lots of caveats. But the one thing that we did do that was, we think market leading has said we would be off natural gas by 2030. And I'll tell you, that is a big challenge. We need the future engineers and architects and people coming through as that transition from natural gas and fossil fuel. So the pillars in our net zero strategy are based on a piece of work by ClimateWorks. So it's called the Deep Decarbonisation Pathway 2050. If you want to read it and look, but there was 4 pillars and we expanded it to multiple ones. But energy efficiency, so just using less energy. So we've done things like swapped out about, or maybe at 60,000 lights, so 50 to 60,000 lights, doing building optimization, campus electrification, I'll get into that one in a minute, on-site renewables. I just looked, you can see, so the multi-story car park out there, we had a 700 kilowatt system. We just finished another 740 kilowatts that you can see. And we have close to 5 megawatts of renewables on our 4 campuses. And that covers about 5% of our energy use. So we use a lot of energy as a research intensive university. So we also have a power purchase agreement with an offsite wind farm, net zero ready buildings. So that is since 2017, we've not put gas heating in new buildings. Lots of interesting projects with the research community around microgrids and intelligent energy networks. And our last option is offsetting residual emissions. So we have just started mandatory this year flight offsets for business travel. So you get a levy put on your travel. So net zero ready buildings. So we talked about electrification. It's really, well, it's easier starting from new. So absolutely, you don't want to put gas in a building. The challenge that we have is our existing estate. So we have about 180 buildings across our campuses. If you want to, all the things that are on campus that you don't know are there. So behind New Horizons, there is that black building, which is a gas boiler house, and it feeds a significant number. So there's 5 kilometers of tunnels under the campus and 2 kilometers of piping. So it makes high temperature hot water, pumps it through the tunnels around, and then feeds the buildings with heating. So trying to retrofit that to electrification is a huge challenge. We've done some buildings where we take them off the loop, and you can just see the amount of infrastructure you have to put on a roof space. And it's very complicated. So I think as the future leaders, a bit like my predecessor up here said, is dealing with the facility management and the existing building stock. There you go. This is our 3 main campuses. So if it is not green or red, we still have to electrify it. If it's blue, it's happening, it's in progress. Yeah. If it's orange, we're still figuring out what to do. And if it's pink, we're about to go to design for it. But we've got about 5.5, maybe 6 years left. Some of our milestones, so we have actually made a lot of good progress. So where we're sitting now is about 68% reduction in our emissions intensity. We have been growing, so we have to do it energy per meter square. We have about 65% renewable electricity, which mostly comes from the wind farm. I'll show you what that looks like in a graph, because that looks more. So carbon emissions definitely going down. From gas, they've stayed pretty flat because we've left the really hard bit till the end. And our gas and electricity, it's about 50-50 gas and energy use. But you can also see our annual campus energy use, other than the 2 years of COVID, 2020 and 2021, has been fairly flat. We have grown in floor space since then, about 10%. So that's good that it's flat, but it's also not good that it's flat because we're growing and we can't keep using more and more energy. So I think energy efficiency is probably also slightly underrated. That's our energy intensity. So we are using less energy per meter square, but we're still growing. We're also looking at circular economy. So we just had this strategy endorsed at the end of last year by the executive. And that's because in our environmental social governance statement, we made a commitment to have a 5-year circular economy plan. And why we did that, obviously reaching net zero is operational emissions. Circular economy is much more about those embodied scope 3 emissions. So your supply chain, your embodied emissions, and how you sequester carbon. We just updated our footprint last year. And if you look at scope 3, once you put in everything we buy, the construction materials we use, how we do business travel, and our investments are in there. It's a massive piece of our emissions profile. The pillars in our circular economy framework are waste, divert waste, regenerating nature. So that's about organics, food systems, and regenerating ecosystems, buildings. So we're very much now moving into the design for disassembly, reuse of materials and parts, and embodied carbon. And Jason put up 2 pictures of 2 buildings, so Gillies Hall and the Chancery, that both had really nice looking, I think it's brise soleil and sun shading. And when we did the life cycle analysis of that, those, because they were so material intense, actually blew our embodied carbon out of the water. Responsible procurement strategy, the university is about to endorse and publish, and then we have a transport strategy. Various targets, nothing that I think would be unusual. Some of the interesting ones, so 90% of construction and demolition waste diverted. We currently do that. The challenge is getting an accurate and full data set. So that's another thing as coming up industry leaders, data is very important. And just to finish, we have worked with MSDI. So Monash has lots of experience in case studies in the net zero transition. So MSDI have taken all of everything that we've gone, here you go, and they've turned it into a really fantastic course. It's an 8-week online self-paced course. Jane is in the audience somewhere. She has some brochures over there. Or you can scan the QR code. It starts on the 13th of May. So highly recommend you check it out. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you, Kendra. Seeing your work is really, really inspiring. We're very supportive spectators here at MSB of your work. It's nice to see. It's nice to see the kind of stuff that we talk about in our team being displayed on campus and these initiatives being spread more widely. It's really, really awesome to see. So thank you very much. All right. It's time for the moment we've all been waiting for. You've seen some little teasers and some stupid Pokemon images on the screen to hide what's going on, but it's now time for our design team to present their work for this year. I'd like to invite Mazarine, Helena, Paige, Josh, and Kristen up to show everyone what's been going on.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Mazarine. I'm the Design Challenge Lead for Monash Sustainable Buildings, and thank you so much for being here today. Prior to being known as Monash Sustainable Buildings, we were known as the Monash Solar Decathlon team because of our involvement with the Solar Decathlon competition hosted by the Department of Energy in the United States. The US Department of Energy Solar Decathlon Design Challenge is an intercollegiate competition that encourages tertiary education students to design high-performance, low-carbon, efficient, and affordable buildings. The goal of the design challenge is to nurture student innovation, STEM education, and workforce development. The decathlon comprises of 10 contests, each relating to a different aspect of the building and has certain criteria to match or exceed. At MSB, we've taken these 10 contests and merged them into 5 subgroups in which our design challenge team operates: design, systems, energy, envelope, and market research and narrative. In the past, we have brought home several podium positions, including a first place in 2019 in the single suburban family housing category, and third place and second place in 2021 and 2023 in the attached housing category. I'm pleased to announce that our 2024 entry is a finalist for this year's design challenge, and 7 of our team members will be traveling to Colorado, USA to present at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our 2024 submission for the first time to the public. Lights, please. Keep the lights on, please. Thank you, everyone. We are Monash Sustainable Buildings Design Challenge team, and I'm presenting here today with Emily, Kristen, Josh, Paige, and Helena. Our team consists of 23 members that work in 5 subgroups: systems, design, envelope, energy, and market research and narrative. And we are supported by 2 faculty advisors as well as 1 alumni. Australia is the most bushfire-prone country in the world, with fire services responding to between 45 and 60,000 fires each year. These bushfires impact Australian residents, and up to 1 million of these homes have little or no fire protection. Every year, the livelihoods of thousands of Australians are destroyed by fires, resulting in numerous displacements. Bushfires are a global issue and one of the most affected industries in the farming sector. In the 2022 Victorian bushfires alone, over 7,000 livestock animals were lost in the East Gippsland region, and over 7.5 million acres of wildlife were consumed by the fires in the United States in 2022. After conducting thorough research, the town of Munro in East Gippsland was selected as the site of our project. As East Gippsland was found to have high levels of fire and flood risk, we felt that it was a suitable region in which to design a climate-resilient house. We also prioritize proximity to essential amenities within a 20-minute radius of a local town, and favored flat terrain over rocky outcrops and dense tree coverage in order to minimize construction challenges and fire risk. The site is also equipped with a private dam to ensure reliable water access for agricultural uses. Through an online survey we conducted, we delve into the needs of Australian farmers, shaping our project to align with agricultural trends and their challenges. Considering this, our target market encompasses families who desire a rural lifestyle, retirees seeking affordability, and sustainable living advocates. With this in mind, our design is tailored for a family of 5, where one of the children is a university student who lives on campus and visits occasionally. Our farmhouse design caters for all living things, including livestock.
Due to its dense concentration of farm and bushlands around the property, our site is at significant risk of bushfire. Moreover, the site has potential to be subject to flooding due to the gradual slope from southwest to northeast. In Australia, we adhere to the Australian Construction Code. Fire safety protocols recommended by our country fire authority and the infrastructure requirements of the Australian standards are followed to achieve bushfire attack level rating of at least 40 flame zone, resistance against full flame assault. Flame Rowan Farm is resilient to bushfire attacks and is future-proof for flash flooding events, demonstrating its climate-responsive design. Our design prioritizes the safety of both animal and human occupants, as well as reclaiming habitats for native flora and fauna. It is also an adaptable prototype that can be replicated in similar regions for a diverse range of occupant profiles. To minimize the flash flooding from the southwest, landscape berms are incorporated to redirect water to the dam, and the building's private areas are elevated. The house and its evacuation zone are sited downhill from likely bushfire fronts and away from dense vegetation to avoid attacks. A safe perimeter is established around the house to evacuate farm animals, and the central siding of the building considers changing wind conditions, allowing animals to find refuge behind the structure from amber attacks. Our design supports the routine of the occupants, dividing farm work from their personal lives. Shared spaces and entrances are to the west, multifunctional spaces in the center, whilst private rooms are located to the east. The house is oriented to maximize intake of southern hemisphere daylight through north-facing windows, creating a comfortable atmosphere. A courtyard envelopes the northern facade to establish a connection to nature. This view highlights the study, which can be converted into a bedroom for the student or a flexible space by maneuvering the bifold doors. The multipurpose area of the hobby space is designed to facilitate various uses for the occupants without any major structural compromises. By transforming the space through systems that can be manipulated for different settings and atmospheres. The design of the East Wing focuses on adaptability to different occupant profiles, considering several variations of the private space. These changes allow for greater flexibility while ensuring that quality materials and systems are in place. In other variations, shared spaces are grouped as one component, while bedrooms, toilets, and ramps can be positioned depending on the occupants and the site conditions. The design features a biosolar slope green roof that provides fire resistance through maintaining soil moisture, whilst increasing thermal insulation, solar panel efficiency, and biodiversity. Birdhouses are built under the solar panels to provide shelter and key navigation points for birds. Across the roof and landscape, native vegetation is selected to accommodate native flora and fauna, promoting a thriving ecosystem.
Thank you. On to our energy goals. Our building performance goals were drawn in 3 sources. The DOE, Department of Energy Single Family Homes National Program requirements, the National Construction Code, and Passive House. The goals were to set not only to meet the requirements by the Department of Energy, but to exceed them, considering opportunities from the climate and site. Our design features bushfire attack level of 40, exteriors for ember, radiant heat, and debris protection. Door panels and hemp insulation offer noise reduction and economic benefits through waste repurposing. The insulated panels and glulam timber compose the structural system, and the Cleva pods and Envisa concrete are insulating and have high early strength. The windows are triple glazed for thermal comfort and provide passive cooling. We ensure that all materials are locally sourced to not only support Australian businesses, but to reduce transport costs and emissions. For the wall section, the fiber cement sheet was chosen to prevent fire and rainwater from entering the wall cavity and causing mold issue. Hemp insulation maintains the thermal comfort, and a fire-rated vapor permeable membrane prevents inner layers from moisture degradation and also allows indoor moisture to escape through the air spaces. Structural insulated panels support the green roof, and a waterproof wrap protects roof elements from moisture, and glulam timber makes up the overall structural system. The on-ground slab system reduces the use of concrete by using Cleva pods as void fillers, and they are made up of 100% recycled propylene and are a greener substitution for the conventional polystyrene waffle pods. The slab is raised on one side using Cululex Ralto to store water. Now onto the structural design and water management.
To support the significant load of the green roof, considering factors such as wind, earthquake, dead and live loadings from the wildlife were manually calculated according to Australian standards. Timber beams and column design was modeled in space gas to control long-term deflection. Furthermore, the green roof has geotextile waterproofing and root barrier membranes, as well as a leak detection layer to control water entering the roof. Potable rainwater from the garage roof is stored in an underground tank, supplying it to a drinking trough for animals in the evacuation zone. Greywater reuse has been integrated with irrigating the green roof, as it is critical for maintaining biodiversity and the soil's thermally insulating properties. From the bathrooms, it is then naturally filtered in a gravel reed bed, pumped to the roof, and fed via drip feed irrigation through the soil. Infiltrated rainwater from the roof is gravel reed and UV filtered before being stored underneath the elevated part of the house in a large tank, saving on excavation costs. This water is then reused for toilet flushing and stored for other purposes such as garden, watering, and firefighting. All sewage and kitchen laundry waste is sent to an anaerobic biogas digester where it is broken down in combination with other waste products to produce both nutrient-rich fertilizer and biogas. Given the colder climate of our site, the greenhouse keeps the microorganisms warm enough to break down the material. The biogas produced is then used to power farm machinery, vehicles, and biogas-compatible appliances such as the cooktops and lamps. For hot water, a locally produced air source heat pump takes advantage of the high coefficient of performance. The split system keeps the tank insulated indoors while the heat pump gains efficiency from better airflow outdoors and reduces noise for occupants. Trace heating piping further reduces heat losses, boosting occupant comfort. Notably, the organic non-toxic refrigerant R744 has a minimal global warming potential as it is simply carbon dioxide with a significantly higher refrigerant performance compared to industry standards. For HVAC, the ducted zone system gives the occupant greater control over the individual split system. Insulated rigid ducting is used to minimize pressure losses and increase efficiency. The kitchen and bathrooms are ventilated directly outdoors to minimize the moisture in the roof cavity. The air source heat pump also works with a HRV, recovering up to 90% of the sensible heat while ventilating out pollutants. In appliance selection, finding the highest efficiency cost ratio and lowest acoustic impact was prioritized. High energy and water ratings are a common thread throughout all the appliances, leading to reduced utility bills and a lighter ecological footprint. The Casa Smart Plug and Google Nest combine to provide load shifting, appliance optimization, and control of the household smart ecosystem. Additionally, the inclusion of fire extinguishers and fire blankets ensure preparedness for an emergency situation. An energy-saving smart lighting system has been chosen for its circadian settings, which will aid occupant sleep patterns and mental well-being. To promote safety and occupant comfort, outdoor lighting and Wi-Fi connected CCTV is installed. Finally, portable air purifiers with HEPA filters improve indoor air quality during the event of smoke infiltration. To avoid potentially breathing in irritants, the chosen air purifier does not have an ionic or ozone filter. Our building systems are coordinated to ensure safe evacuation of both humans and animals during a bushfire emergency. Occupants will first receive evacuation warnings via the Vic Emergency Warning System or local emergency radio stations. Bushfire shutters then deploy to protect the most vulnerable windows and doors. 14 biogas-powered fire sprinklers sourced from an existing pond protect the exterior walls and animal refuge paddock from ember attacks. The HRV seals to prevent smoke infiltration, and animals are herded into the evacuation zone. Occupants then follow, evacuating the property entirely. During a bushfire, our water storage supplies firefighting water and portable drinking water for animals via self-filling trough. Food storages and indoor air purifiers are also installed.
Thank you. Our building envelope achieves a grade A score of 205 kilograms of carbon equivalent per meter squared in the Carbon House Benchmark program, utilizing one-click CA and Design Builder. The total embodied carbon of the materials A1 to A3 is roughly 22K and 200 kilograms of carbon equivalent as seen on the screen. We've also taken account of this carbon sequestration potential of surrounding vegetations into consideration, aiming for carbon balance and environmental impact reduction. After accounting for all stages of our building's life cycle, emissions are reduced by 6,723 kilograms of carbon equivalents. We've included a graph showing the embodied carbon of all the building materials used. Materials such as concrete have high embodied carbon, while Durapanel and hemp insulation were selected for their carbon sequestering properties, aiming to minimize the overall carbon footprint.
At the end of life stage, our construction materials and appliances are sent to recycling centres in Victoria and nearby states, where recyclable components are extracted and repurposed into new products, supporting a circular economy and reducing environmental impact of construction waste. The PV system generates 33 kilobutons per year and is designed to operate with Flame Robin's 3-phase power supply. An array of 16 solar panels, which are capable of powering a high temperature and low light conditions, work in conjunction with 13 microinverters spread across the phases. The system includes a 13.5 kilowatt per hour Tesla battery wall 2 battery with a backup gateway and a bi-directional smart meter to allow for the net metering of our 3-phase system. The gateway system is capable of disconnecting Flame Robin Farm from the grid, allowing it to operate off its solar and battery power during grid disruptions. The PV system generates 33 kilobutts per hour. Let's get that one. The HERS scores rating without PV is -1 and 41 respectively. More specifically, the net source EUI of the house is -11 kilobutons square feet per year, meaning the house achieves net zero energy with the implementation of the solar PV system. As for the energy breakdown, heating holds the largest share, while cooling holds the smallest, which is due to the high number of heating days compared to cooling. The daylight analysis, which is modeled both daylight factor and daylight autonomy, shows that 36.3% of the regular operated floor areas achieve a daylight autonomy of over 50% at 300 lux, meeting the requirement to be awarded 1 point for the WELL core standard.
To estimate the construction costs, we determined the quantity required and price of every single product and material needed for the design. Ultimately, the construction cost for this design totals $398,000, with materials accounting for 60% of the total. Operating expenses include a yearly utility and maintenance cost totaling $3,900 annually. Our design also qualified for the solar panel and hot water rebate under the Victorian government's Solar Homes program, saving us $1,600. Whilst prioritizing sustainability, we equally emphasized financial feasibility, recognizing that our target market may be hesitant to invest in a property with costs that surpass the regional averages. Leveraging locally sourced materials curtailed expenses, which allowed our construction costs to be lower than the Victorian average. In addition, sustainable features like on-site renewables and water systems / yearly utility and maintenance costs to be lower than both states' averages. With a calculated net present value of the 50-year lifespan of this property amounting to $2.75 million, we are confident that the construction of the Flame Robin Farm would be a worthy investment. This value suggests the investment would not only recoup its initial costs, but also provide a substantial return above those costs, making it a financially sound investment.
The flame robin is a bird that is native to the region where our site is located and is a species that thrives in fire-affected environments, surviving and demonstrating resilience in destructive natural disasters. We introduce Flame Robin Farm. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, man. How good's that? Lots of info there. I hope we kept you all engrossed. We'll be doing the same thing in the US in a little over a week. So exciting stuff to come there. Yeah, thank you to everyone who presented. You did an awesome job. I've been a part of the design challenge team as well, and this has been a culmination of the better part of a year. So it's really cool to see the final results, and I want to acknowledge the the immense creativity, dedication, and talent within the Design Challenge team, most of which are here today. So if you're not familiar with our DCH members, get to know them, pick their brains. There's a lot going on and a lot of cool stuff going on in the design. All right, so we've now got our panel. So there's a QR code up there that links to a little Slido. If you have any questions, phones out. Scan that QR code and ask us whatever you'd like to know, and we'll get our panel consisting of an industry member, a faculty member, and a student from both engineering and architecture to give you guys their opinions. Yeah, so could I ask all panelists to come up to the front? Wait. Okay, cool. Awesome. Oh, hello. I will now leave you in the capable hands of our moderator, Brody, who will give you the deets on what's to come.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brody McFarlane, and I'm going to be moderating this panel today. We've got 6 lovely guests here. So welcome all. Thank you for participating. So a little bit about me first. I'm third year civil engineering student. I'm part of MSB under the Design Challenge, and I've been the systems subgroup lead in that. So our panel here tonight is going to be talking about sustainable design and design principles. So we are, as Max said, we're joined by 3 engineers and 3 architects. So as our student team has a lot of different people in different streams, different courses, we've got a great range of people here to pick their brains and get some insights. So just to reiterate, we've got some preset questions that we'll be asking, but you are all in the audience welcome to scan this QR code and submit your own questions for the end. So yeah, I'm going to have a seat. So we get ready to begin the panel. I'll sit down the end. That's for you. That's for me. Your handheld man, and the handheld you passed around. All right, I've never held one of these before, but sure, we'll go with it. So yeah, I'll briefly introduce everyone. So Monash here is from APT Architecture. He is a principal architect. And is passionate about design, has a lot of experience in suburban and non-suburban contexts. We also have Peter in the middle. Peter is an associate. Whoever designed these speakers in this room did a very poor job because they're angled like right back to where we're talking. So anyway, yes, Peter is from faculty. So he is an associate professor here at the university and is also an executive director of the Global Buildings Performance Network as well. So a lot of experience there. And rounding out our 3 architects is Rahila, who is our master's student that was part of MSB. And she is on the design subgroup in the Design Challenge. And then moving on to our 3 engineers, down the end we have Ty, who is head of sustainability at GHD for the Asia Pacific region. And he has worked with a lot of very big companies, including Apple and McDonald's, to help them meet their net zero goals, sustainability goals. And then also at the end, we have Brandon, who is actually MSB's faculty advisor. He is an expert in all things water, working in wetland design and sustainable like ecology development. And then rounding out the engineers is North Mason here, also part of MSB. And he is also in the Design Challenge on the Energy subgroup. So yeah, the format of this panel, like I said, ask questions, we'll get to them. But first, we're going to start with a question that I'll get everyone to answer. What does sustainability mean to you in 1 sentence?
Looks like North, you have the microphone. Oh, wait. Yeah, so I'll be brave. I guess to me, one sentence. Sustainability to me means doing business without sacrificing the needs of our future generations, basically. Supporting ourselves and not forgetting that we also have to support those in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a tough question. It's I think if you guys all move forward, away from those ones there, that'd be great.
All right. Could be worse. My sentence is sustainability or sustainable development is a process of identifying unsustainabilities and eradicating them.
This is cheeky. What is sustainable? Sometimes, okay, we struggle with this as quite a large business, and defining something like sustainability at an individualistic level is not necessarily correct, right? I actually think the definition of sustainability is dependent on who you are and what the market needs and what you all need as an individual. A singular definition I don't think fits. And so maybe more controversially, I don't think there's actually a clear definition for what this is because it's so broad.
And from the architects, I guess we're here now.
Well, can I go two sentences maybe? Well, from my point of view, and it is a broad topic, but so for that reason, I think sustainability is about us as inhabitants of planet Earth being able to continue to inhabit the planet for the longer term, keeping in mind the growing population that we are going to have, and keeping in mind the irreversible climate damage that we have already done. So that's one sentence.
Okay, well, we might be lenient just for this once.
Long sentence, but I got it in. The second one is from the personal perspective as an architect, I suppose, is how do we continue to practice architecture in the longer term with that overall kind of context in mind, which I put forward first as a global citizen. How can I contribute as an architect to continue the practice of architecture in a way that it doesn't detrimentally affect our future prospects?
Very long sentence, but we'll enjoy it. Thank you for that. All good.
Yeah, so I would agree. It's a very difficult thing to define because there's many definitions. But the main thing for me is I see it as an investment in the future.
Very succinctly put.
I think Monash kind of stole what I was going to say, but I guess as a student, sustainability for me really means that how can I, in 50 years, still have the same level of comfort without having to deal with all of the extra climate crisis that we'll be facing, and what can we do now to prevent that or mitigate that even a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all very much for that first question. So yeah, sustainability is obviously a very, very broad idea, and there's so many different aspects to it. So it's a tough first one, I realized. I did brief them all and say that we weren't going to have tough questions, but I realized I may have to eat my words on that one. But yeah, so moving on, we'll do some other new questions. So just jump in. Yeah, we won't necessarily go, running through everyone for these ones, but if you've got something special to say, go right ahead. So our next question is a little bit of background about you. So did something in particular inspire you to go into the sustainable industry?
I'll go first. I don't know whether there's a microphone. Great. So I was, my degree's in building construction. And when I was at uni, I was also involved in environmental groups as an environmental activist. And I kind of felt like I was trying to save the environment on the weekend. So
basically I was looking for a way of being able to combine my desire to protect the planet and my professional skills. And that's where sustainable building came along, but it came along by accident because I actually, like this, I entered a research design competition for prefabricated housing. I came second. First prize was 3 months at the University of Hawaii, and I was thinking about going surfing. Second prize was a voucher from the Technical Bookshop of Melbourne. And that was awesome because when I went in there, I was thinking this is really going to be boring. And actually I came across green architecture, Howard Odum, systems ecology, and all of these wonderful books, which just suddenly there was the answer. It was like there's a pathway. So that's how I got into it, and it's very, very inspiring to see what you're all doing professionally as well as at the level of the student activity. But it's also a little bit frustrating because my world now is trying to convince governments and industry, or to help governments and industry work together to decarbonise the building sector in line with the Paris Agreement, which means reducing emissions by 50% from the building sector by 2030 and making it zero emissions by 2050. That's a massive challenge. And when we look at the global status report that was launched in Paris just a couple of weeks ago, the gap between the pathway to net zero and where we currently are in the industry is widening. We're not decarbonising, in other words. But the hope is that somehow we can network the energy and the know-how that's going on here. And it's the speed and scale, which was really what I wanted to do when I started. And I think this is a really interesting group because we as professors, have probably tried to bust down a few doors, but now it's time for a new generation of thinking and activism to come into the space, because I don't think we can follow a linear approach to innovation or change from now on.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that story will resonate with a lot of us students in the team of where we've all started out. Certainly listening to a lot of the alumni come back and tell us how they're still in the industry after this project is quite interesting. Thank you.
I might have a definition for sustainability now.
Go on. Yeah.
It's the byproduct of bad design, and that is potentially where, because the question was about how did you get into this thing? Not dissimilar to you, Peter. It was sort of a little bit by accident. I'm an engineer by background. I thought I was going to be an acoustic engineer. I thought I was going to be a musician kind of person, as most people do. But that position wasn't available to me when I was coming out of university. And the agency, Arab at the time, said, well, would you like to do buildings and engineering and stuff? And I sort of said yes. And that introduced me to the whole world of the intersection between the built form and the climate of science. And that space in between is very interesting, difficult, artistic, and challenging, right? And that really resonated with me as a young engineer coming out of university. And that led me down the pathway of realizing that all of us are actually interventionists, right? We have huge impact and ability to influence the built environment in the urban realm. And as a singular person working in large global organizations, that impact is actually scalable and multiplied by a factor of enormous. So if you can do something good on a large, big thing, the aggregate of that is enormous. It's 100,000 Clifton Hill schools. It's 1 million Clifton Hill schools. It's 1 million of these kind of things. And that was, as an engineer and a rational thinker and a evidence-based designer, it's like it just made so much sense. We can do so much just based on the evidence, based on the climate, based on the science. And at the same time, mixing it with architecture means you're sort of creating poetry from the science. And that is hugely, keeps me up at night and wakes me up in the morning. And it's that kind of energy and enthusiasm that I think is really quite cool. Go do it.
Excellent. Thank you. We might move on to the next question, unless someone's dying to answer the first. Okay. So we're going to sort of transition to talking about a little bit of climate change now. So with the increasing effects of climate change, as we've seen in Australia with the bushfires and the amount of flooding that's been going on lately, I swear every 2 months or something I see a news story about out of control floods in Australia. And then of course, throughout the world as well, it's a growing issue. So my question is, with these increasing effects, how has your approach to design and your approach to how you work changed?
We can go first. So, so just going back one step slightly. So, from the start of my journey as an architect, you know, our approach has been to learn how to, as Jason was saying before, learn how to build what we design, and from that point of view. So, and now then going to this current question about so the effect. So during that journey, what I have found is that people are really lazy and greedy, and it's really hard if you really want things to happen the way they need to happen, then it needs to be embedded into codes and rules and regulations. That's the bottom line, I think. And then for that reason, what we're beginning to do is now we're beginning to actively engage rather than just the passive design as an architectural, commercial architecture practice that we can do. We're beginning to actively engage with, say, people like DEECA, with whom I had a consultation actually yesterday. They've been tasked with codifying residential standards for various different residential types, and because we felt that we had our 2 cents to add, we went on the front foot and organized this meeting, and we kind of shared their views. And we recently had a meeting with the RMIT Sustainable Buildings Innovations Lab with a view to kind of perhaps, I don't know, even start a collaboration on a like a pilot project for one of our projects.
Excellent, yeah. So do hold on to those thoughts about building codes and constraints, because we'll be getting to those. But yeah, Gabriella?
At the beginning, you mentioned flooding, and I think one really sort of impactful moment that will forever stay with me is back in 2022, the flooding up in Lismore happened, and so me and a group of other Monash students, we went up there to volunteer with the cleanup efforts, and this was 6 months after the flooding had happened. So seeing that actually this natural disaster that happened is taking such a huge toll on a small community, and although they were rural, there was that sense of how can you bring yourself up again. So the community had that spirit, they had that want to come up again, but they just didn't necessarily have the resources or the know-how on how to push themselves through, because even after 6 months, you could still see the flood lines. There were still houses, covered in mold, in mud. And from that, I sort of thought to myself, well, moving forward in architecture, there has to be a human element to it, and you can't really take that away. So with the codes and all of that, it's really great to have there, but within architecture, there has to be sort of a human element, a human understanding that these things really do impact a lot of people. And we can talk about it, but going there and actually seeing how it's done, and then how they move on, it was quite motivational.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a very big thing that we remember. We're not just seeing numbers on a page, like these are real people that are impacted by these circumstances, and our designs and our initiatives that come from it.
Yeah, just real quickly, as an educator and a researcher, it's certainly climate change is something that I intertwine into both of those elements, less so as just something to cover in class, 1 week out of the semester, or something to think of when I'm modeling the catchment into the future and looking at climate change scenarios. That's part of what we do, but more of it now really as thinking of it as a lens through which to view all problems, because all problems are future problems, and climate change is going to affect all of them. And like Rahila said, there's a real human element to it, and so for me personally, it's really about the people you work with and pointing out kind of things that don't look good, like, I'll just say it, Monash partnering with Woodside and things like that, that I think are really problematic, that we really need to address openly, and if needed, have open debate about it, because these are decisions that affect a lot of people, and we really have to think about it hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Story, but you can ask the next question.
We got time if you want to have a quick story.
Yeah, the story is just, it relates to putting people at the center. And so in India, one of the projects that we're working on through my research group at METTA and the Global Buildings Performance Network is on trying to get minimum energy performance requirements into residential buildings. And in countries like India and Indonesia are building millions of square meters of housing, particularly affordable housing, every year. And they don't get covered by building regulations, apart from fairly rudimentary ones. And so what's happening is people who are being moved into affordable housing are being moved into housing which is just too hot. It is really causing extreme problems when it comes to heat waves. People are dying. It's an emergency. So one of these major climate impacts. So the people, how do you make politicians aware of this issue? So this is where the intersection of engineering, science, architecture, and everything comes in. You have to be able to make the problem visible. And so you need ways of being able to measure what's going on. And so in this case, we work with and speaking of scale, we work with the National Affordable Housing Program in India called PMAYU. They do 4 to 8 million units a year. We anecdotally had heard that there were problems with heat. So we had engineers go and monitor a sample of the new apartments, and sure enough, the average indoor temperature on a normal summer's day in Gujarat is 34 degrees Celsius. Average apartment size is about 45 square meters, average occupancy 6 people. So that's unhealthy right off the bat, but it's also increases in domestic violence. Measures to improve ventilation and so forth don't work because people are too scared to keep their doors and windows open, et cetera, et cetera. So the measurement, the data, visualizing the data, being able to demonstrate this is a human issue and it's political, and people with that data can then organize themselves to raise the issues to their politicians is important. So that drives regulatory reform. What we did was we couldn't wait for new regulations to come into play. So we looked at the existing building regulations and we tried to work out with this data, what could we influence to improve the situation? It turns out the ventilation standards hadn't been changed for a very long time. So we provided some guidelines on how to improve ventilation and reduce heat load. Mm-hmm. And then we got architects to work with the builders within the profit margin of the builders to redesign the apartments to make them healthy for people. That then inspired the government to say, oh, these guidelines look like they work. Can we review the building regulations according to the guidelines? We said, sure. So now we've got the Bureau of Indian Standards using the guidelines we produced with this coalition to revise the ventilation standards in the National Building Code, which is going to improve the lives of millions of people. So that's a good news story. It's a scale story, but it also shows how engineering and science and architecture and the human-centered approach works.
Awesome, yeah. It's very fascinating to hear about how the issues that we talk about in Australia really affect different cultures and places around the world. So yeah, we'll move on to the next question. This is sort of framed at those with a lot of experience in industry. What do you think is an essential skill for people coming out of university in the field of sustainability? If you had to like pinpoint it to one or two main skills that you would say are missing.
I would say the biggest one would be flexibility, if that makes sense, because we have to be nimble and agile, and keeping our ears and eyes open to what's actually happening around us. And lots of things are happening really fast. And I suppose the second thing would be the willingness to engage without just getting, I suppose, entrenched into your own little micro world.
Absolutely, yeah.
I sort of feel in the world of data and being able to surround yourself by super smart, excellent people, I think the thing that I was also having taught at Monash for about 6 years, I think, 7 years in METTA, the ability to tell the story when you come out is enormously impactful and very powerful in industry. Now, when I mean telling a story, I mean being able to communicate the values as to why you need to do something and the outcome that is going to achieve for the people you're talking to. Because if you can absolutely nail that, you can convince and create paradigm shifts in behavior, which is at the heart of a lot of the sustainability agenda. So that skill set of being able to understand the intent of the story, how you tell that story, and making that effective is genuinely a game changer for your career and what you do. So if that was a singular thing, I would say, you know, when you're doing your crits and your presentations, and the preparation beforehand and the ability to be fluent in communicating what you're saying is right at the top of your shelf.
Absolutely, yeah, great. Reminder audience, if you have questions to pick these people's brains, scan the QR codes. I get them on here. So yeah, please do so. Yeah.
I've got one, sorry to hog it, but learn how to collaborate. How many people here like group work? Good to see a few hands coming. We often talk about, we use group work, you know, because you've got to learn how to collaborate. We don't teach collaboration much when we actually force you to work together in groups. Learning to collaborate is a really, really key thing. And I think we as academics can do better at supporting learning how to collaborate. But the other thing I'd be thinking about is, you know, this projects here, you know, this sort of combination of disciplines is really important. And so coming out with a new view of who you are as a professional, not box yourself into being a certain type of engineer or a certain type of architect, but an activist. You know, you are learning a profession to make the world a better place, or you're here at university to learn how to make the world a better place. If your mission doesn't fit the box of the profession, then, you know, so be it. But I think that, you know, that sort of idea of we need to make a difference now. It's not really an option. We can't do it alone. So we have to learn how to collaborate. And if that means that you're got your engineering degree, but you end up, and that happens in life, by the way, you know, you get your degree and you end up doing something different because you're following your passion and what needs to be done. So I think learning to collaborate, not being terribly fixed on the profession, but rather on the mission.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of things about clear communication, able to get your ideas across and communicate that to the right people. So we'll move on to the questions that I've got from the audience. I was panicking because there wasn't any, but then I refreshed it, we're fine. Interesting point that I actually wanted to personally hear responses on is, how does industry, or indeed in DCH if you want to show your perspective on that, but how do we walk the tightrope of designing sustainable structures whilst being profitable and I guess attractive to industry, or attractive to our clients?
Well, you go to university at Monash first. Is the tightrope between profitability and?
Or like attractiveness to clients in paying for what you want to do and also being sustainable.
So I think the attractiveness to client thing is down to, in my personal life, you know, having very strong, clear ideas that translate really well, that are then told really well to your client, and they believe you and they believe in it, and they will be happy to pay the extra budget that you didn't allow for, or they will be happy to receive the savings that you can achieve because you've designed something quite special. I think part of that is experience, but that's a cop-out answer. Yes, you get more experience and you can walk that tightrope better. But I think the clarity in the idea and the clarity in the objective around sustainability and the outcome helps you define how tight that tightrope is. And in my privileged life of working with some amazing architects around the world, Rem Koolhaas, Daniel Libeskind, Norman Foster, and others, that tightrope that they define is super, super clear because they are very, very good at capturing what the intent and the idea is, and and how they're going to get there. And it brings the whole team and the client along on the journey.
Absolutely, yeah. So another running theme of clear communication.
I mean, are you questioning capitalism or neoliberal projects at all? Because I think that's another thing to challenge is economic models. You know, sure, there's definitely a tightrope when it comes to a kind of asset-driven or profit-driven outcome, and that's the market economy we have. But there are other modes which are really important to look at. You know, sort of sharing economies, for example, but also taking a step out of the market for a minute and having and recognizing that 80% of people live in an informal house. That market for most people just to have shelter isn't in that profit space, and that's really where the massive issues arise when it comes to looking at human impacts on climate impacts on humans and other things like that. So are there other ways that you can design a market? Are there other ways that you can design value that maybe avoid some of the tightropes? And I think also, and hidden in that question is also a question of demand. What drives demand? And yes, you know, I think there's a lot of evidence that's been drawn from great designs that show that it needn't be a trade-off between profitability and sustainability, to put it that way, at all. So that's sort of one thing to say. But on the other hand, you know, if you look at it from the point of view of human rights, and you look at the housing crisis all over the world at the moment, is it fair? And this is a question for governments in many ways, and possibly for developers. But is it fair that that we don't have universal access to sustainable buildings? It's not safe, but it is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, thinking about what sort of public investment is required, you know, how do we get large corporations to pay taxes, which can then provide the housing that we need so that people can survive climate futures? You know, so there are broader questions at play, and this isn't just hyperbole. I mean, I work with governments and international organisations, and this is right in the middle of the debate around sustainable building at the moment. It's being increasingly driven by this question of just transitions and human rights. Technically, we know what to do. So in a way, it's creating a new playing field for us to be able to bring the solutions to bear without having to worry about whether it's going to cost more or less, or someone's going to make more or less profit.
Yeah, so a lot of outsider perspectives, I guess, on a similar issue. Do we have any perspectives from the DCH team about how we walk that tightrope that we want to share with the audience?
I guess the way that we really tackle trying to make our sustainable buildings attractive in DCH is really trying to drive home a narrative of why our building design is really important. So in example for the Flame Robin Farm that we talked about earlier, our drive home point is really this will be a building that will make a positive impact on the lives of the people that live there. So yeah, I think
framing it that way for the audience. Yeah, cool. We'll go to another question. I think this one is interesting in how we actually make a change rather than just talking about sustainability just because it's a fun word. So the question from the audience is, how do you approach sustainability in a way that avoids it degenerating into just being a buzzword? So how can you address that when you're talking to clients or within your own teams potentially?
because I'm holding the microphone. I mean, this is live and we're doing it now. And I would say fatigue around sustainability and the degeneration of that word is already here, right? And and in other parts of the world, it's even further away. Don't mention the word the S word. So when you move away from sort of emotional based arguments, maybe, or a line of inquiry or a line of work that's based around this should be the right thing to do, you need to do it because it's bad for the world, and you move towards an evidence-based, science-based results outcome discussion or approach, the emotion, at least in our world that we work in, sort of dissolves from that debate, and you just get on with the task. You get on with the climate risk mitigation strategy that needs to happen because we know floods are coming in certain areas. We get on with the insulation improvements and shading improvements that are needed in buildings to make houses not overheat. And you go beyond the we're not going to meet our 1.5 degree target sort of discussion. And I would say in a significant amount of work that we do with clients in different parts of the world, there is no longer that difficult, fatiguing discussion around sustainability generally, because it's about how do we meet these mandatory requirements that are now here in my country, right? EU taxonomy, mandatory climate disclosures, financial risk statements that relate to how you are responding to flood issues with your physical assets. Those are all real and now in many parts of the world. So we're just doing it, right? Now, in other parts, and Australia being one of them, some of that debate and some of that industry is not as mature. And so there's still a bit of fatigue and there's still a bit of gap, I think, between what's actually, I suppose, what the vernacular and what the debate is around the S word and what you are actually needing to do to make it real.
Yeah, awesome. Might have room for one more response, Monash or?
Yeah, I think I can add something to that. So with regards to, we as a small architectural practice don't have the profile of larger firms like GHD, etc. So we don't deal with larger clients who have massive impact on larger volumes of people. But we think that more people like us, like smaller practices, even individual architects, individual practitioners, need to sort of can keep at it as in just practice one at a time, yeah, chip away at it, and if you get one project out of 5 successful in terms of where you want to be, then you do that. And one of the ways of doing that is what we are kind of investigating at the moment is how to kind of build in good design, sustainability wise, because they're both related, good design and sustainability, in a way that it can actually get built without getting value managed out during the construction stage. Yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah. In the topic of time, on the thing of time, lost my words. But yeah, I've noticed there's a lot of questions on here about things that came up in the DCH slides. So all of our MSB people have these little name tags, and they have our roles and all that on there. So if you've still got questions about what was presented in Flame Robin Farm for the design challenge, feel free to come ask any of us, and we're more than happy to answer those questions. One last question. Sorry, one last response. One last question. Oh, I don't need to find one. Okay, well, we got time for one more then. Let's find a good one. Okay, here's a nice little finale. Is there a piece of technology, so real quick, we might hear from quite a couple of you, just real quick, is there an interesting piece of technology or an idea or a project that's recently gotten into your heads or gotten into your experience that you might want to share, that's gotten you excited about sustainability and the future, I guess? I realize maybe this is some things you can't openly, publicly talk about.
Isn't that awful? You get that there's probably so many choices buzzing around in our heads. It's hard to pick one. I can't think of one, to be perfectly honest. But I think one of the it isn't really a technology, but we talk a lot about forming coalitions, and the team. I love the team, the way the team is presented here, and the way that you're thinking about organising and with intent. And I even within the international framework conventions and everything, there's a strong desire to work out how the hell do you translate these big ideas down onto action on the ground. And it's the building sector is considered by those with money, the large philanthropic organisations and the UN multilateral funds and everything, as complex and difficult, because it looks like it's fragmented, and it looks like there's not one big silver bullet that you can just flick the switch of. But actually, bottom up, it's not that complicated at all. And you mentioned, even at the scale of a small project, it's the same basic questions. And having forming a good team, good network of suppliers, that kind of thing. It's not a piece of kit, but it's actually something which is exciting me, that people like you are organising all over the world right now. And what we want to do is to connect you all up, because there is a network effect and we have to accelerate the learning process, and bottom-up change is occurring, but that'll also help visualise it. If the governments see the movement, that's exciting.
So I guess, we've got to get louder and show what we're doing more.
Yeah, I might get the engineering perspective. Might be, you might expect it to be a bit different with, yes, there is some technology, but from my opinion, no, there's not some technology that's going to get us out of our future problems anytime soon. But kind of echo a little bit what Peter's saying, that it's about collaborations and networks that we can build, communicating with people that are like-minded and wanting to solve the same kind of problems as you, but also stepping outside of your comfort zone and really working with a very multidisciplinary team, I think, is important. Thinking back to the question earlier about the kind of skills you might have and want in an industry, not an industry per se, but I think I always think back to this model presented to me a while ago about the T-shaped. In this case, it was a researcher, but in the T-shaped engineer or architect is one who has a set of skills that are fairly shallow but broad. So that's the top of the T. And right in the middle of those skills, with complementary skills on either side of that, is a deep knowledge of something in particular that you can apply and contribute to a problem. I think of that T shape quite often when I'm thinking about people I'm interviewing for positions or choosing a team to work on a problem with. I think about that quite often. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess perspectives on skill sets that are more exciting innovations, I guess, or futures.
Am I allowed to? Can I say something?
Yeah, go on.
Maybe I'm building on you and building on you, and the question was, is there a singular piece of technology I'm excited about? I think I'm excited about a lot of stuff. We're doing some cool things, turning brown coal into hydrogen, working out how to turn hydrogen into kerosene to put into planes. So it's all zero stuff. Storing hydrogen to turn into a battery, very clever, right? And maybe some of you are doing that already in your research. Thank you. But I was totally inspired by, and if there's an astrophysicist here, please put up your hand, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, right? Stuff that we designed and built a very, very long time ago is well beyond the heliosphere of our galaxy, or of our world, right? It's the furthest piece of human-made technology, engineering, and science. Still going. We're sending like 8-bit messages to them. It takes 4 days to get there, and it's still going. How is that for hope? Engineering and science and creative thinking, solving enormous problems back then, and yet my iPhone sometimes doesn't work properly. And the scale of challenge that we have with sustainability and climate change and mitigating against the risk against that is gargantuan. But if we had just a slither of that creative engineering and science thinking from Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, what can we do now with everything that we have? Right? That's what I'm excited about. It's us. It's a picture of hope.
Very inspiring final look into sustainability for the future. So thank you very much. We might wrap it up there, so we still have time for networking and chatting at the end. But yeah, I'd like to, on behalf of everyone at MSB, thank our panel for participating today, and I hope you all got something out of it. So, round of applause. Yeah. Just a final reminder from me, those with DCH, or sorry, Flame Robin Farm related questions, come chat to any of us, and I'm sure we'll be more than willing to yap about all that we've done. Sorry, guys.
All right, so we do have one more little surprise before we close out. We've got some guys from METTA here who have set up a little VR headset in the corner over there, the dimly lit corner of the room. We've got 3D models and 360 views of Flame Robin Farm set up on that VR headset. So we wanted to give METTA a little bit of time to explain what's going on with them. And then we'll give some closing statements, and then it's dinner time.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are from METTA. So METTA is another student team like WSB, and we focus on emerging technologies, mainly quantum and VR stuff, anything that's up and coming in the field, and we really like to focus on it. So our team consists of myself as co-lead with Jackie and Jordan, who are here today. If I just go to the next slide. So I'm going to hand it over to Jordan to talk a little bit about who we are. And I'll talk a bit about why we're here as well, and a bit more about the demo at the end. So here you go, Jordan.
Cheers. So as Rohan said, my name is Jordan. I'm leading the events team currently at METTA. Very dynamic team. So of course, being emerging technologies and being an emerging club, really, being fairly young, we're working and really building the team from the start. So at the moment, we're looking at digital twins being a very large part of what we're working on at METTA, which is, of course, is very relevant to what we're talking about today. And of course, architecture, it's a very big space where digital twins are effective. We're also working in a few other fields like chemical engineering at the moment with some projects working with IA Labs at Monash and also with VARS. It's multidisciplinary as well, of course, because we have multiple different areas that we're working with. So we're working with industry, we're working with professionals, and we're also working, with researchers here at Monash. And as I mentioned, multiple domains with lots of planned for the future. And of course, we're building the team very rapidly. We've got a lot of people on board. As of tomorrow, we're actually doing some interviews. And of course, XR, so VR, AR, and MR is all part of what we're doing at METTA.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm just going to expand on our vision and how it's kind of relevant to the collaboration that we're doing today with WSB. What we want to focus on for both, the people from industry here as well as the students is a focus on the mix between METTA and WSB. So as Jordan said, the architecture side of things with having a virtual tour of the spaces for, architectural diagrams to visit it. And that's what our stall over there is doing pretty much. And with the digital twin, recreating a lot of the civil engineering stuff with physics models. So that's something that we possibly will work with WSB in the future, MSB, sorry. But yeah, we have a lot of engagements and we'd love to engage with you. So any students, staff members or industry people, stalls over there. And we've also worked with a few people before. So we do research, we work with the VARS team, which stands for Virtual and Augmented Reality Services. And we're part of the MSTI initiative. And that's who we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Oh, where are we? All right, guys. Oh no, I missed. Sorry. There we go. All right. So, closing remarks. Excuse me, I've lost my script. I want to make sure I don't forget anyone. So, The oh my gosh, where am I? Okay, so thank you to everyone that's presented today. Thank you for the industry experts and the people from faculty and everybody who's come down to support us. We can't thank you enough, and it's been so insightful hearing all of the work that you presented to us. And I hope that MSB as well has given you guys some good motivation, some good insight into what the team is doing. If you don't know too much about us, hopefully now you do. And if not, there's plenty of us milling around to give you some more info. So this showcase sort of gave us a glimpse into a bunch of different topics about sustainable building. And I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who made that possible. Obviously, you would have heard or seen about 100 MSB people running around the back. Currently, some of them are grabbing food. You'll get told off for that later. But thank you for thank you for making this event possible. We really appreciate the work that you've done. And I think it turned out pretty well. Yeah, so thank you guys. And of course, finally, we want to thank all of you guys for coming. It's really you guys and your interest in our work that keeps us motivated and keeps us pushing to make betterment for our team and betterment for society as a whole through what we present to you guys. Yeah, so now I'll leave you be. I'll hop off the mic. There's some more food over there. Drinks, go crazy. All of our projects are in the very dimly lit corner of the room for some reason, and the VR headset that METTA has set up is ready to go. So have a gander, give it a try, and yeah, feel free to stick around as long as you'd like and talk to all of us about the awesome work that you guys are doing and the awesome work that we're doing. Yeah, thank you for coming, guys. Have a good night.